The theater course is structured really two different ways depending on how we teach it. We teach a 7-week version of the course that meets 2 or 3 times a week for 7 weeks. And we teach a 1-week version, which meets intensively all day long for 1 week. In the 1-week version of the theater course, we start the first day by having students just get up and do some acting exercises. We ask them to imagine a character in their life. And then gradually, through a series of directed questions, we ask them to become that character. We ask them to begin by doing monologues. We'll sometimes ask them to line up on stage and read two parts in a play that they've never seen before. So they have to listen to what comes before them. Then we give them an exercise that I think is very useful in thinking about leadership skills. We give them a constraint exercise. We tell them that the next day, or later that same day, the first day, they have to write, produce, and put on an original 6-minute play. And then we give them a list of constraints. The play has to be Chekhovian. It has to have a failed expectation. There has to be a surprise entrance. There has to be a revelation of space and object. There has to be a trip and fall. There has to be laughing through tears. Then we give them a set of props. There has to be a gun, a fake one, not a real one, a cigarette, playing cards, the sound of China, the sound of the wind. And then we give them just a few lines. I think there's 7 lines of dialogue that they're allowed to use. And they must use these lines of dialogue. And one of the lines is 200 years from now, will mankind still be suffering? And another line is, my boot. And so the look on the students' face as we're reading out this thing, this is an exercise, by the way, that we didn't develop. It was designed by Anne Bogart, who's a very famous director. And so they go away and they have to put on this play now later that afternoon or in the 7-week version the next day. Right? And their initial reaction is, this just can't be done. There are too many constraints. What they find very quickly is the constraints themselves are the sources of creativity. They put on an amazing set of performances. No two of them are alike, and they're really incredible. I mean, these are MBA students who are not theater professionals. They're not professional actors. And the idea is that MBA students really aren't very creative. That's just not true. You put them in this setting, and you find there's no limit to their creativity. So we do acting exercise. We give them the Anne Bogart constraint exercise. The next thing we do is we have them pick some very short 1-act or 5 or 10-minute plays. And then we have, those are cast. The students are also directors of the plays. And on day 3, we perform those. So they have only a day to learn the play, to shape it, to figure out how they want it to look, and to learn the lines. On day 4 of this 5-day course, we start in the morning. We do something called 24-hour theater. And we start on the morning. By 3 that afternoon, the students will all have written plays. That's right. They write their own plays. They start in the morning. It's about an 8-hour process. They write plays. Not skits, not sketches, but real plays. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon or so, we will have a reading. We'll read all the plays. We'll cast them, divide it up, figure it out, and the next day, usually in the afternoon, so this is probably 36-hour theater, not 24, we'll perform them. So literally in 36 hours, they create a public performance out of nothing but their own experience and their own creativity. Now, the first time we did this, I have to tell you, I was shaking in my boots. I thought, there's no way this will happen. No way will 15 MBA students be able to write something from nothing and have a public performance. The performance was really amazing. You certainly, you wouldn't know that they were amateurs. You certainly wouldn't know that they were MBA students. You'd never think about it. The plays were deep. They were meaningful. Some of them were funny. and they really created theater. What did they get out of that? What they said were things like, the kind of collaboration that goes on here is like nothing else we've ever experienced. And they said things like, I thought I wasn't a very creative person, and I found that if I change that story, I can be incredibly creative if I give myself permission. They said things like, the thought of being nervous giving a presentation to a board of directors after being in the theater is simply ludicrous. Stage fright, nerves, those things simply went away. They said things like, the rush of adrenaline that you get, the sense of accomplishment that you get of making something out of nothing is unlike anything I've ever felt before. I was amazed at those responses because I had traditionally dealt with just the thinking and understanding level and a little bit of the feeling level. I didn't understand how powerful it was when people actually do this stuff, when they actually think about and exemplify this creative process, this process of collaboration and trust where they're there for each other.